Ladies and gentlemen, a woman who walks alone. A woman who walks alone is a woman who chooses courage over comfort, purpose over approval, and authenticity over perfection. She is not defined by the absence of company, but by the presence of self-awareness and self-love. Walking alone isn't an easy path. It's often marked with moments of doubt, whispers of fear, and echoes of rejection. But it's in these moments that she discovers her true strength, the strength to keep walking. Even when the road feels endless, even when others tell her to turn back. The power of vulnerability lies in its paradoxical nature. It feels like weakness, yet it is the truest form of strength. For a woman who walks alone, vulnerability is not just a part of the journey, it is the very essence of it. To walk alone is to step into the unknown where there are no guarantees, no promises, and no safety nets. It is to admit that you don't have all the answers and to expose yourself to the risk of failure, rejection, and pain. But here's the truth: vulnerability is not about losing, it's about showing up despite the risk. When a woman walks her path alone, she chooses to be seen as she truly is, flaws, scars, and all. She doesn't hide behind a facade or pretend to have it all together. This raw honesty is what makes her powerful. Vulnerability isn't about being perfect, it's about being real. And when you're real, you connect with yourself and the world on a deeper, more authentic level. Think about it: the moments when we feel most alive, most connected, and most human are the moments when we allow ourselves to be vulnerable. When we say, "This is me, this is my truth. Take it or leave it." Vulnerability is the bridge between fear and courage, between isolation and connection, between self-doubt and self-worth. For a woman walking alone, embracing vulnerability means allowing herself to feel everything: the joy and the sorrow, the hope and the heartbreak, the victories and the defeats. It's about resisting the urge to numb the pain or avoid the discomfort. Instead, she chooses to sit with her emotions, to learn from them, and to grow through them. In doing so, she discovers a wellspring of inner strength she didn't know she had. Vulnerability also teaches her to let go of the need for external validation. When she walks her path alone, she realizes that she doesn't need others to approve of her choices or applaud her courage. She understands that her worth isn't tied to anyone else's opinion. This liberation allows her to take risks, to dream big, and to move forward with conviction, even when the outcome is uncertain. But perhaps the most beautiful thing about vulnerability is its ability to inspire others. When a woman dares to be vulnerable, she gives permission for others to do the same. She shows that it's okay to be imperfect, to struggle, and to keep going anyway. Her courage becomes a beacon of light for those who feel lost in the dark. In the end, the power of vulnerability is the power to live fully and authentically. It's the power to embrace life in all its messiness and magnificence. For a woman who walks alone, vulnerability isn't a burden, it's her superpower. It's what allows her to turn fear into freedom, wounds into wisdom, and solitude into self-discovery. To choose authenticity over approval is to choose freedom over conformity, truth over convenience, and self-respect over external validation. For a woman who walks alone, this choice is not just an act of defiance, it is a commitment to live in alignment with her deepest values and beliefs. Authenticity is her guiding principle, a light that illuminates her path, even when the world tries to pull her in different directions. Living authentically requires courage. It means showing up as your true self, even when that self doesn't fit into the expectations or molds that society has created. For a woman walking alone, this can be particularly challenging. The world often whispers, sometimes shouts, that she should conform, follow the crowd, and seek approval from others. But a woman committed to authenticity knows that the cost of pretending to be someone she's not is far greater than the cost of walking alone. When you prioritize approval over authenticity, you hand over your power. You become a reflection of what others want you to be, rather than a reflection of your own soul. You say yes when you mean no, and you dim your light so that others feel comfortable. But a woman who values her authenticity refuses to play this game. She understands that she wasn't put on this earth to please everyone, and she is okay with not being universally liked. Choosing authenticity means embracing your imperfections and celebrating your uniqueness. It's about owning your story, the good, the bad, and the messy, and refusing to let anyone else dictate what that story should look like. A woman walking alone learns to be at peace with the parts of herself that others might not understand. She realizes that her quirks, her dreams, and even her struggles are what make her who she is. This path is not without its challenges. When you choose authenticity over approval, you risk rejection, criticism, and even loneliness. But the woman who walks alone knows that these are temporary discomforts, while the rewards of living authentically are lasting and profound. She experiences a deep sense of freedom, the freedom to be herself without apology, to make decisions based on her own values, and to pursue a life that feels true to her. Living authentically also requires the willingness to set boundaries. A woman who walks alone knows that saying no to what doesn't serve her is an act of self-respect. She doesn't bend herself to fit into spaces that weren't made for her, and she doesn't shrink to make others feel comfortable. She understands that boundaries are not walls to keep people out, but bridges to deeper, healthier connections with herself and others. Ultimately, authenticity is about belonging not to others, but to yourself. When a woman walks alone, she learns that true belonging doesn't come from seeking approval, it comes from embracing who she is at her core. She stops asking, what do they think of me, and starts asking, what do I think of myself? This shift is transformative. It allows her to build a life that feels meaningful and aligned, rather than one dictated by the expectations of others. In a world that often pressures women to conform, a woman who chooses authenticity stands as a powerful example. She inspires others to shed their masks and step into their own truth. Her courage to be real, even when it's hard, creates a ripple effect that encourages others to do the same. Choosing authenticity over approval is not an easy path, but it is a liberating one. For the woman who walks alone, this choice becomes her compass, her foundation, and her legacy. She walks forward, not with the weight of others' expectations on her shoulders, but with the lightness of knowing she is fully, unapologetically herself. Loneliness is one of the most universal yet deeply personal experiences we face as humans. For a woman who walks alone, loneliness is often an inevitable part of the journey. It can feel heavy, like an ever-present shadow that questions her resolve and tests her spirit. Yet, within the ache of solitude lies an unparalleled opportunity for growth, self-discovery, and resilience. To face loneliness with courage is to turn it from an adversary into a teacher that reveals the depth of one's strength and the power of one's heart. Courage in the face of loneliness is not about pretending that you don't feel the ache. It's not about masking the pain or numbing the emptiness. It's about acknowledging the truth of your emotions and standing firmly in the reality of your experience. It takes immense bravery to say, I feel alone, but I will not let this feeling define me or derail my journey. For the woman walking alone, courage means resisting the urge to settle for less than she deserves just to escape the discomfort of solitude. Society often romanticizes togetherness, suggesting that being alone is a sign of failure or inadequacy. But the woman who walks alone understands that true courage is found in the willingness to hold out for something real and meaningful, rather than filling the void with superficial connections or fleeting distractions. Loneliness also forces her to confront her fears and insecurities. When there's no one else to lean on, she must become her own anchor. She learns to sit with herself in the silence, to listen to the whispers of her heart, and to build a relationship with the person she sees in the mirror. This is no small feat. It takes courage to face yourself fully, to meet your own gaze without judgment, and to find peace in your own company. The woman who faces loneliness with courage discovers that solitude can be a powerful gift. In the quiet, she finds the space to dream without limits, to heal old wounds, and to rediscover her passions. She realizes that loneliness isn't a punishment, it's a blank canvas, waiting for her to paint a life that reflects her truest self. But courage in the face of loneliness doesn't mean rejecting connection altogether. It's about recognizing the difference between being alone and being lonely. A woman who walks alone understands that she can embrace her solitude without closing herself off from others. She is open to genuine relationships, but she refuses to compromise her authenticity or values to gain approval or avoid being alone. Loneliness also teaches her to appreciate the connections she does have. When the right people come into her life, those who see her for who she truly is and celebrate her journey, she values them deeply. Courage in the face of loneliness allows her to cherish these relationships without clinging to them out of fear. She knows that true connection is built on mutual respect and understanding, not on the desperation to fill an emotional void. Ultimately, courage in the face of loneliness is about trusting that the path you are walking is leading you somewhere meaningful, even if the destination isn't clear. It's about holding on to the belief that this season of solitude is preparing you for the next chapter, where your strength, resilience, and self-awareness will serve you in ways you can't yet imagine. A woman who walks alone with courage understands that loneliness is not her enemy. It's a companion on the journey, challenging her to grow, to reflect, and to evolve. She doesn't let the fear of loneliness hold her back. Instead, she lets it push her forward, shaping her into a woman who is unshakable, self-reliant, and deeply in tune with her own heart. To face loneliness with courage is to stand tall in the storm, knowing that you are enough, that you are capable, and that you are worthy of the love and connection you seek, not in spite of walking alone, but because of the strength and wisdom you've gained along the way. Boundaries and belonging are two concepts that might seem at odds, yet they are deeply intertwined. For a woman who walks alone, boundaries are not just lines she draws to protect herself. They are the framework that defines her identity, values, and worth. At the same time, her sense of belonging begins not with others, but with herself. It is through setting and honoring boundaries that she discovers where she truly belongs, both in her own life and in the world. Boundaries are an act of self-respect. They are the way a woman communicates to the world. This is what I need, this is what I will tolerate, and this is what I won't. Establishing boundaries requires clarity and conviction, but enforcing them demands courage. A woman who walks alone understands that boundaries are not walls meant to keep people out. Rather, they are bridges that create healthy spaces for connection, trust, and understanding. Yet setting boundaries can be an intimidating process. It often requires the willingness to have uncomfortable conversations, to say no when others expect yes, and to face the possibility of rejection or disappointment. Society often pressures women to be agreeable, accommodating, and self-sacrificing, but a woman walking her path alone knows that sacrificing her needs to gain approval or avoid conflict only leads to resentment and a diminished sense of self. Through boundaries, she defines her priorities, she makes room for what truly matters and lets go of what doesn't. This clarity helps her focus on the relationships, opportunities, and experiences that align with her values. Boundaries aren't just about protecting her time and energy, they are about creating the conditions for her to thrive. At the same time, boundaries help her understand the true nature of belonging. Real belonging isn't about fitting in or molding herself to meet the expectations of others. It's about being seen, accepted, and valued for who she truly is. When she sets boundaries, she creates a filter that allows only those who respect and honor her authenticity to enter her inner circle. Belonging also starts with belonging to herself. A woman who walks alone knows that if she abandons her needs, values, or desires to gain acceptance, the belonging she feels will always be conditional and fragile. She chooses instead to build a deep connection with herself, one rooted in self-acceptance and self-love. This internal belonging gives her the strength to walk her path with confidence, even when others don't understand or support her choices. Boundaries also play a role in teaching others how to treat her. When she upholds her boundaries, she communicates her worth without needing to justify or explain herself. She shows that she values her time, her energy, and her emotional well-being, and she expects others to do the same. Over time, this fosters relationships built on mutual respect and understanding rather than obligation or dependency. Through the interplay of boundaries and belonging, she learns that she doesn't need to sacrifice one for the other. Boundaries don't isolate her, they empower her to connect with others in meaningful ways. By honoring her own needs, she sets the stage for relationships where she can be fully herself without compromise or pretense. Rejection is one of the most painful experiences we face, yet is also one of the most universal. For a woman who walks alone, rejection can feel particularly raw because it often reinforces the loneliness and self-doubt that accompany her journey. However, rejection, when faced with resilience, becomes less of a barrier and more of a stepping stone, a catalyst for growth, self-discovery, and unwavering strength. Resilience in rejection begins with the recognition that rejection is not a reflection of her worth. It is a moment, a decision, or a circumstance, not a verdict on her value as a person. This perspective doesn't come easily. It takes practice to separate her sense of self from the opinions or actions of others. But over time, she learns that rejection is often less about her and more about the preferences, limitations, or timing of others. Rejection forces her to confront her fears and vulnerabilities. It can trigger feelings of inadequacy, shame, or even failure. Yet resilience means allowing herself to feel these emotions without letting them define her. It means acknowledging the hurt while refusing to let it dictate her next steps. A woman who walks alone develops the ability to sit with the discomfort of rejection, knowing that it will pass and that she will emerge stronger on the other side. Resilience also involves reframing rejection as a form of redirection. When a door closes, it's easy to see it as an end, but often it's the universe's way of guiding her towards something better. This doesn't mean the pain of rejection disappears, but it does mean she can find purpose in the experience. Every no she encounters shapes her path, teaches her lessons, and brings her closer to the yeses that truly matter. Rejection teaches her to rely on herself. When others say no, she learns to say yes to herself. This self-reliance is empowering. It reminds her that her dreams and goals are not dependent on the approval or permission of others. She finds ways to move forward even when the support she hoped for isn't there. This determination strengthens her resilience and builds her confidence in her ability to navigate challenges independently. Facing rejection also helps her cultivate empathy and understanding. She begins to see rejection as a shared human experience, something everyone faces at some point in their lives. This perspective helps her connect with others on a deeper level, as she realizes that vulnerability and courage are universal. It also softens the sting of rejection, as she recognizes that it is often a reflection of circumstances rather than personal shortcomings. Resilience in rejection isn't about never feeling the pain or disappointment. It's about refusing to let those feelings have the final say. It's about learning to rise after every fall, to keep going even when the path seems uncertain, and to trust that every rejection is shaping her into a stronger, wiser, and more determined version of herself. Imperfection is often seen as a flaw to be hidden, corrected, or fixed. Society, with its focus on perfection, constantly urges us to be flawless, to conform, to measure up to some ideal standard. For a woman who walks alone, however, celebrating imperfection is not a choice, but a revelation, a realization that the very things that make her imperfect are what make her whole, unique, and powerful. Imperfection is not a weakness to be overcome. It is the mark of a life lived authentically and courageously. Celebrating imperfection begins with accepting that she is not supposed to be perfect. No one is. Perfection is a myth, a construct that shifts with time and circumstance. What is considered perfect one day might be outdated or irrelevant the next. A woman walking alone comes to understand that perfection is an unattainable standard that only serves to create dissatisfaction and self-judgment. Instead of striving to meet an impossible ideal, she learns to embrace the parts of herself that are messy, complex, and flawed. Imperfection is a reminder of her humanity. It is in our mistakes, missteps, and imperfections that we truly experience life, its unpredictability, its chaos, and its beauty. A woman who celebrates imperfection understands that it is the cracks in her heart that allow light to shine through. These imperfections create space for growth, for learning, and for transformation. They are the very things that allow her to evolve and become who she is meant to be. To celebrate imperfection means to release the need for control. It means embracing the uncertainty that comes with being human. Life is messy, is full of moments where things don't go according to plan, where mistakes are made, and where plans crumble. A woman who walks alone finds peace in the chaos. She lets go of the need to have everything perfectly arranged, recognizing that the beauty of life often lies in its unpredictability. When a woman chooses to celebrate imperfection, she also frees herself from the burden of comparison. Instead of measuring herself against others or trying to meet external standards, she turns inward and embraces her own path. She understands that her journey is unique and that the things that make her different are the very things that make her special. Her imperfections are her signature, the fingerprint of her life story. Celebrating imperfection also involves cultivating self-compassion. When she makes mistakes or faces challenges, she doesn't berate herself or dwell on what went wrong. Instead, she treats herself with the same kindness and understanding that she would offer to a friend. Imperfection, in this light, becomes a way of being gentle with herself. It's an acknowledgement that growth comes from trial and error, from trying and failing, and from finding the courage to continue despite setbacks. In embracing imperfection, a woman walking alone begins to find a deeper sense of peace and contentment. She stops chasing after an unattainable ideal and starts to appreciate the beauty of who she already is. She realizes that it is in the moments of vulnerability, the moments where she falls short or stumbles, that she is most authentic, most human, and most alive. Imperfect moments offer opportunities for connection with others. When we let go of the pressure to be perfect, we give others permission to do the same. A woman who celebrates imperfection creates space for real, honest, and genuine relationships where both she and others can show up as they truly are. It is in these connections free of judgment where true belonging is found. To celebrate imperfection is to embrace the full spectrum of life, the highs and lows, the successes and failures, the triumphs and the setbacks. A woman who walks alone knows that her imperfections do not define her, they simply enrich her journey. Each imperfection, each flaw adds texture and depth to her life story. And it is through these very imperfections that she discovers her truest, most resilient self. In the end, the woman who walks alone is not defined by the solitude she experiences, but by the strength, courage, and wisdom she gains along the way. Through vulnerability, she finds her true power, knowing that embracing her imperfections and fears leads her to a deeper connection with herself and the world. She chooses authenticity over approval, walking confidently in her truth, regardless of the world's expectations. In the face of rejection, she rises, knowing that every setback is a lesson, not a failure. Through the boundaries she sets, she creates a life that belongs to her, a life defined by her values, her desires, and her own unique rhythm. And through it all, she celebrates imperfection, recognizing that it is in the messy, flawed, and unpredictable moments of life that true beauty and growth occur. The journey of walking alone is not a journey of loneliness, but one of profound self-discovery and resilience. It is a journey of learning to trust herself, to embrace every aspect of her being, and to stand tall in the face of uncertainty, knowing that she is enough, exactly as she is. The woman who walks alone is a beacon of strength, a testament to the power of choosing yourself, and an inspiration for all who dare to walk their own path, imperfect and unstoppable.